And welcome to Connections. We are a Bible study of the New Hope Missionary Baptist Church. We are located in the city of Jersey City, New Jersey. And welcome aboard. We're hoping and praying that you're having an awe-inspiring day. And we pray that everything is well with you and your family and everything is okay where you are. If you're new to our broadcast, we want to say a great big welcome to you and thank you so much for tuning in. We believe that this Bible study is life changing, and we believe that you're in the right place. Well, for the past month or two, we have been looking at a very interesting topic, if I might say. We've been looking at the idea of single, dating, being engaged, and getting married. All of that in one book by a guy named Ben Stewart. And we want to bring that up right up on the screen for you so you can see it right there. That's our primary text that we're using, and we're also using our Bibles to help us to navigate these really interesting topics. So, got a lot to unpack in this episode. The best way for you to engage with us is by using your fingers and putting your comments in the chat. Let me just say something about that. Every time you comment, whether it's nothing, uh, it's something as simple as a yes, no, or amen, or gotcha, or whatever, you are helping the algorithms to take our broadcast and send it to other people who are like-minded. Okay, so please feel free to comment often, freely. Okay, and so that we can help others to see this broadcast. So we're going to get started, and I always like to kind of do something, a question to kind of get us in the mood of feeling like this is a safe zone. This is a place where you and I can feel free and not have to worry about other people necessarily, you know, uh, judging us on what we say. Okay, so this is a judgment-free place, and we just want you to feel free as you're led to share with us. Okay, so I have been thinking about a question today that was posed to me earlier, and I said, boy, that's the kind of question I would like to share with our group. So let me share the question that was posed to me. Uh, Here it is. Okay. Uh, if you were going to lose your sense of taste, what would be your last meal? Now, this is you. This isn't you dying. Okay. This is you sense of taste. Okay. If you're going to lose your sense of taste, what would be your last meal? Okay. All right. If you're going to lose your sense of taste, what would be your last meal? Okay. In fact, thankfully, there's some other people who've already thought about this. Okay. So while you're thinking about it, what you would like to have for your last meal, I see Elizabeth Jackson, thank you for chiming in, said chocolate cake. All right. Well, that's like dessert. Would you like to have anything else for a last meal? If you were going to lose your sense of taste, what would be your last meal? What would you like to have? Okay, so I found some people online who have already answered this question for us. So let me see if I can pull some of them up, and you may know some of these folks. And if you don't, I put their names right where their face is. Okay. Also, Elizabeth Jackson says she wants some fried chicken. Okay, great, great. So this person, you may know, Kelly Rowland. Okay, she's an entertainer, singer, sang with Destiny's Child, with Beyonce, and all of that. So a lot of people know her, right? So I'm going to share with you what she said she would like for her last meal to kind of give you an idea of some of the answers that are out there. Okay, check this out. Kelly Rowland. This is her last meal.
I'm Kelly Rowland, and my last meal would be caviar with potato chips, cheeseburger with french fries, and tacos with a pineapple margarita, A5 Wagyu, and mashed potatoes. Then a peach cobbler, chocolate cake, and chocolate peanut butter pie for dessert.
All right. So did that whet your appetite? Okay, she covered it all for you know her last meal. So think about the question: if you were going to lose your sense of taste, what would be your last meal? Okay. All right. Oh my goodness. Here we go. Tamika says she wants some turkey wings. All right. Tiffany says a blimpie. Oh my. What number? What would be in the blimpie? Rosalind says soul food, fried chicken, collard greens, mac and cheese, yams, and potato salad. My. I'll be back. I'll see you guys later. Okay. Graham says chicken parm. Okay. So let me check. Let me show you somebody else who kind of answered this question. You've heard of him, right? Tom Hanks played a lot of motion pictures, starred in a lot of stuff. They asked him the question. Let's see if I can pull up what his response was. Here's what Tom Hanks said he would like
I
for
am
his
Tom
last
Hanks,
meal.
and my last meal would be challah bread French toast with Kerry sugar-free syrup, an In-N-Out double-double with a Diet Coke, Greek salad with avocado, calamari, and a side of pita with tarama salata. The Taste of History platter from El Cholo with a Diet Dr. Pepper, and a white chocolate coconut bundt cake.
All right, all right. So what about you? What about you? If you were going to lose your sense of taste, what would be your last meal? Okay, Tamika says, I hope it's from our hero, the best in Jersey City. I didn't even know that joint existed, so I guess I got to try that out, right? All right. Mm-mm-mm. Let me share one more with you, all right? This guy, some of y'all know him. Let me see. Yeah, you probably do. Okay. Former football player, NFL. Uh, you know, third entertainer, very popular, Terry Crews. So here's what Terry Crews said. Now watch it. He doesn't talk a lot, but here's what he
Hi, I'm
said.
Terry Crews, and this is my last meal. Woo!
All right.
Hi, I'm
Play
Terry
that again.
Crews, and this is my last meal. Woo!
All right. So he had a lot of stuff on his plate. All right. So yeah. So I want to just get you to think about stuff like that because a lot of times you get to learn stuff about people when they talk about their last meal. Says Gloria says that's a feast. So Brenda Perry says she wants some fried fish, sweet potato, and cheesecake. My. Mm. But I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I, I want some fried chicken. I want some collard greens, some sweet potato pie, and with some ice cream, with some butter pecan ice cream, and y'all can throw in some mac and cheese. That'll do me just fine. All right. Okay. Well, thank you for taking that short quiz with us. Now we're going to jump into right where we left off in our last episode as we were talking about this period called engagement. Now, uh, Bible doesn't talk a lot about being engaged, but it does talk about being engaged more than it talks about dating. This is this period like when Joseph and Mary, Mary the mother of Jesus, Joseph, his, uh, uh, earthly father, guardian, stepdad, or however you want to put it, when he finds out Mary is pregnant, he wants to put her away. And even though they hadn't been officially married, he could put her away. He could go through a legal disentanglement and, dissolve the union. Okay? Because in Jewish culture, being engaged was just like being married. It was very serious. The families have already struck the bride price. The ceremonies all been set. So when Jesus tells the story about the virgins, the 10 virgins, 5 wise, 5 foolish, they are simply waiting for the bridegroom to come. He may come at any time because there's nothing uh, else in the way except him taking his bride. So he will come maybe in the night or whatever. It will be noised all over the town. The bridegroom is here. The bridegroom is here. The bride has to run and get ready. And, so yeah. But Mary becomes pregnant by the Holy Spirit. The curious language is that Joseph says he wants to put her away privately, but they're not technically married. But in the culture, they are considered as if married. Okay, so we're going to talk about engagement. And last time we talked about some things that are necessary if you want to have a positive union, that you should have some of these things. Okay, we talked about excitement, talked about a life you live, a strong sense of commitment to your partner, growing set of communication skills. And we're going to jump in right now with number 5, the ability to survive a moment of confession. Okay, now this is important because a lot of relationships will collapse under the weight of discovery when something that has been hidden suddenly comes to the fore. When you thought you knew everything there was to know about that person, and all of a sudden something is uncovered that you were not prepared for. Okay? A lot of relationships do not survive that uncovering. Okay? So we're talking about having a successful engagement. This is the period, the time where I tell couples that, y'all need to sit around, pull up a chair, face each other, and confess stuff that you know about that your partner needs to know about. Okay? Because if you don't confess it, somebody in your family will. And that means that it will often come out, but it may not come out from your lips, but somebody else in the family who assumed that you talked about it will talk about it. Okay? Long ago, I remember a story of a person who was happily married, went to the families, the husband's, the spouse's family, and the family is sitting around the table, and everybody is commiserating, and they're talking, and they're chatting, And you know what people do when they get in that kind of situation? They start talking about the past. And it so happened that the couple who were married and had children, right? One of the family members says, hey, and they mention somebody's name and mentions, oh, yeah, that's so and so's child. Now, the partner never knew that the person had a child. Now, the child was before they met, the child was before they got married, the child was before they had children. But everybody else in the family knew about the child except the person who got married to, to okay? So you imagine, it was a secret. Everybody else felt like it was one of those open secrets. So the person who tells all of a sudden recognizes that, oh my goodness, he never told. He never mentioned that he had a grown child. I imagine that ride home must have been interesting. Okay, so that's why we talk about when you engage, you should have a frank conversation with people and tell them, look, this is me. This is some stuff you're gonna hear about me. This is maybe some unpleasant things that I did, because they're gonna find out. It's gonna be better if you control the environment and you're the one who controls how it's discovered. Okay. Wow. So I see, Sharon, you understand that. A cousin who met her siblings at her father's funeral. Can you imagine the pain? Okay. So we tell people there's a time for us to sit down, have a conversation. We know it's going to be raw. We know it's going to be painful. But if you don't have it, it's going to come out. And when it comes out, you're not going to be able to stop it or to frame it or anything. Okay? So that's number 5. Okay? But let's go a little bit deeper. Now, the ability to survive a moment of confession is really about this. Okay? Proverbs chapter 28, verse 13 in NIV says, whoever conceals their sins does not prosper, but the one who confesses and renounces them finds mercy. Okay? And if you've been in a relationship before, you know that sometimes we are definitely in need of mercy. But if we got secrets that we don't disclose, we got skeletons in closets that we don't open, when those things come out, they can be disasters. So in order to keep from having something come out that's going to blow up your relationship, blow up your situation, the Bible declares what we should do is that we should conceal, we should not conceal, excuse me, our sin, but we should confess it, and if necessary, ask for mercy. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's go on a little further. So we do this. Okay. So we're going to look at a book in the Bible. It's called the Song of Solomon. Now, this is one of those interesting books in the Bible because it almost didn't make it into the Bible. Okay. By that, what we mean is that when folk originally were putting the Bible together, there was questions about whether or not this really was inspired. It's a love story. I mean, it's aptly called the Song of Solomon, wooing this woman. And if you read the story, not only is he wooing her, but she's coming on to him. Okay. And there are a lot of people in this story. Okay. We'll talk about who the people are. They're that are speaking in the story. Okay. So let's look at it. Okay. The Song of Solomon. This is the wisdom book. So, what the Song of Solomon suggests to us is this, that if we're going to have a successful marriage, relationship, there ought to be excitement. Okay? There ought to be excitement. Okay? If there is no excitement now, it's hard to manufacture the excitement later. Okay? So we tell people, if they don't float your boat, if they don't make you holler, if they don't cause you to feel something, you might just need to go back and start over. Find somebody else who brings to you excitement. Okay, so let's look at the story of the Song of Solomon. Okay, so we're going to read the Song of Solomon, chapter number 1, verses 1 to 4. Okay, listen to what it says. I'll make it big so you can see it at home. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. For your love is more delightful than wine. Pleasing is the fragrance of your perfumes. Your name is like perfume poured out. No wonder the young women love you. Take me away with you. Let us hurry. Let the king bring me into his chambers. Oh my goodness. I tell you, every time I read that, sometimes I just need to kind of hold myself because you don't believe it, but this stuff is actually in the Bible. This is racing. This is hot. This is steamy. Okay? This is the essence of excitement. Okay? So, what in this verse, what in these verses 1 to 4 that we just read, lets us know that the woman is excited about her man? Okay? Let's look at it. What's in here that lets us know that she is shown up excited about her? Okay? Let's look at it. Okay? First thing we see, what does she say? You see it, right? All right. Now, she wants to be kissed, but she wants him to kiss her with the kisses of his mouth. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you, this is not for the faint of heart. You got some little kids, maybe you ought to tell them to go watch, Cartoon Network or something else, because this here is big folks talk. Okay? We know that she is excited about her man because she wants physical contact. Okay? Look at it. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is more delightful than wine. The way he smells excites her. Pleasing is the fragrance of your perfumes. Okay? Okay? And as Tamika said, when you talk about kissing somebody, you don't just kiss anybody because you got to like that person. Matter of fact, you better sure enough have more than just like on your mind, because she don't want to be kissed on the forehead. She not asking to kiss on the cheek. She wants him to kiss her in the mouth. Oh Lord have mercy. Did y'all get that? Okay, kiss me with the kisses. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. Okay, she talks about how he smells. Okay, she talks about his name. And you know, you've been there, right? If you ever been in love, you've been there where you started writing that person's name on anything and everything you could get, and you would write your name and you'd write their name, and that's where she is, all right? And his name is like perfume poured out. And then she says in verse number 4, take me away with you. And I can't wait. Let's hurry. Bring me to your chamber. Oh my, I remember back in the day when Teddy Pendergrass used to sing that song, Close the Door. It's right there in Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse number 4. You ain't know that stuff was in the Bible? Yes, Lord, yes. Okay. So she is excited about her man. Okay. Now, there are 4 people who actively speak in this text. Okay. Let me see if we can get it. In the Song of Solomon, the 4 groups. One is God speaks. The other is the man. And we assume that's Solomon. The other is the woman, the Shulamite woman, the Canaanite woman, the black woman, and the woman's friends. Okay, they all speak in this book. Okay, so here we go. Now, in the last 2 verses, let me see if we can pull them up. Okay, in the last 2 verses, we got to ask ourselves a question. Okay, who speaks in the last 2 lines of these verses? Okay, let's put it up here again. And why does knowing the identity of the speaker matter? Okay, the last 2 lines, take me away with you, let us hurry. Let the king bring me into his chambers. Who speaks the last 2 lines of these verses? Okay, who's speaking? Okay, let the king bring me into his chamber. Take me away with you. Let's hurry. Okay, who's talking? Okay, remember we said there are 4 people, 4 groups of people talking, right? There's God, there's the man, there's the woman, and there are her friends. Okay, so when we look at this, right, the Jackson said it sounds like the woman. Indeed, it sounds just like the woman is talking. So why is that important? Well, it's important for us because when we know the identity, we know that this is about a couple who is madly in love. These are not her girlfriends. This is not God. This is the woman who is telling us that she is in love with this man. And when you know that, you're like, okay, there's something going on in this book. All right? So, second thing we want to talk about is we call friendship. Okay? So we talk about excitement. And what you need, if you're going to get in this engagement period, you're going to need some friendship. Okay? So what we mean by that is this, that let's read the Song of Solomon. We're going to stay there for a bit. We're going to move to chapter 2. And in chapter 2, we're going to read verses 8, 9, and 10. Let's put them up on the screen. Okay? Here we go. Listen, my beloved. Look, here he comes, leaping across the mountains, bounding over the hills. My beloved is like a gazelle or a young stag. Look, There he stands behind our wall, gazing through the windows, peering through the lattice. My beloved spoke and said to me, "Arise, my darling, my beautiful one, come with me." Boy, that boy got a rap on him, doesn't he? Okay, so let's look at it. Now, notice the excitement in this passage that the man has for the woman. In chapter 1, we saw that the woman was excited about the man. Now we see in chapter 2, guess what? The man is similarly excited about the woman. So when we talk about, when we talk about having a relationship, relationships are not necessarily going to succeed when one person has excitement and the other is lackluster. Okay? They work better when both parties are excited about each other. Okay? So in this book of the Bible, the woman uh, wants him to hurry and come to her. Chapter 2, what do we see? We see the man is doing everything he can to get to where she is. Did y'all see that? Okay, so this is important. Let me help you with this. Because here, let me see, I'll push this up. Okay, now, okay, the Hebrew word used in verse 10, translated as darling. Let me see if we can pull this up for you over here. Hold on a second. I want to split my screen and just show you this right quick. Okay. That he wants, okay, here we go. Yeah, verse 10. There we go. Okay, so, hold on. This is where I need to be right here. Okay. Okay. Let me go backwards. Okay. My beloved spoke and said to me, "Arise, my darling." Okay. So what we're trying to get to see is the word darling here is translated elsewhere in the Old Testament as neighbor, companion, or friend. Okay. So what we see here is that even though they both have a strong attraction and desire for one another, that their relationship isn't built on physical attraction alone. They have friendship. Okay? They are friends and they are lovers, but they're not just building the relationship on physicality. Okay? Because what happens when you build a relationship solely on physicality is that one day you may wake up and you may not feel like being in love. You may not feel like being married. Okay? And what happens when the thrill is gone? What happens when the feeling is no longer there? Well, if you got friendship, you have something that's deeper than the physical. Okay? So the word darling, when he says, my beloved spoke and said to me, the beloved spoke and said to her, "Arise, my darling," he wasn't saying it in the sense that we do in our culture. We say darling, boo. We're talking about physical attraction, sexual attraction, things like that. But they're talking about a friend. Okay? They talk about a friendship kind of relationship. Okay? So they got that going on. So let me see. Let me show you this. Let me see, go back. He doesn't walk to her in the text. He leaps over mountains and bounds over hills. Okay? So he not sashaying to her. He is in her, in the figurative language of the Song of Solomon, he leaps over mountains to get to where she is. All right? So that's some kind of relationship. All right. So you see that the dynamics of that relationship is something. Okay. So here's a question. Why do you think the man and this woman in these verses would prize companionship, not just character? Okay. Let's put it like this. Why do you think that they want to be friends and not just lovers? Okay. Why do you think this man and this woman in these verses want companionship, friendship, not just a physical relationship? I mean, maybe they could talk to us. Maybe they got some wisdom that you and I need to have. Okay. So think about it. What they are saying to us in the 21st century is that if you want your relationship to last, you got to build it on more than physical attraction. Okay? Because once the physical changes or goes or something happens to it, if that's all you got, then you don't have anything left. Okay? So I think this is a word of caution to us, especially if you're out there and you're looking for Mr. Right, you're looking for Miss Right, you're looking for that person who you're going to spend the rest of your life with. You probably need to do well to develop a friendship before you develop a love relationship. Because you can fall in love with people and not even be friends. I'm just trying to talk to somebody. Okay. So as Elizabeth Jackson said, you need to get to know each other first. And not the knowing where the Bible says, and Adam knew Eve. That kind of carnal knowledge, that kind of sexual knowledge, that's not the kind of know that we're talking about. Okay. So more intimate bond to build on. Thank you so much for that, Kimberly. Yeah. And so a lot of our relationships don't survive because they weren't constructed well. So you meet somebody, you hop into bed with them, and after that exchange is over, then you want to sit down and talk. Then you want to find out where he is from, where she's from, what are their values. That cat already, that bus already took. I mean, that thing already left the station. That conversation is when you are forming the relationship. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay. So here we go. All right. So how do you know that you're supposed to be with someone? Okay. Uh, Libby Jackson said, you know, their last name. Uh, yeah. A lot of times people in relationships and they hop into bed with somebody and they don't even know who it is. You know? So how do you know that you're supposed to be with someone? Okay, so maybe some of you who are already in relationships, maybe you want to talk about how you knew that you were supposed to be in a relationship with that person. What were some signs? What were some things that clued you in that, yeah, this is the person? Okay, all right. So, all right. So I'm gonna walk through some things. Okay. I hope this is your situation. If not, you know, might want to put up a big stop sign and pause and say, hold on, let me go start working on some of these things. Okay. How do you know you're supposed to be with someone? Here are some clues. Are we ready? Okay, let me see. I'll pull this up here. Okay. Okay. You want to be with them because there's an ease, not an obligation in your communication. A lot of times, one of the best indicators is when you can say, boy, it's easy to talk to you. If communication is strained, and it is only communication when it's about intimacy, when it's about sexuality, then that could be a problem. Okay? So you want communication that's not out of obligation, where you feel like, yeah, I gotta say something. How was your day? What you thinking about? I don't know. What you want to do? Nothing. Okay? But when you find that you're with somebody and you like to talk to them and they like to talk to you, it's not talking out of obligation because y'all are only two there, but it's talking because you like that person. You value their opinion. You want to hear what they have to say. They like to listen to you. Okay? And don't fall into the trap of having these one-way communication relationships where one of you is always doing the talking and the other one is always doing the listening. Okay? Everybody has an opinion. Okay? And when you get in a relationship where all you do is listen and repeat back what somebody said to you, guess what? One of y'all ain't even necessary. Amen. Amen. Okay? So let's go forward. Okay? Another thing we talk about, what we need is we call growth. Okay? So we talked about friendship and we talked about excitement. Okay? Now we're going to talk about growth. Now, this is really important. Listen, bend your ear for a minute. Okay? We're going to read the Song of Solomon, chapter 2. We're going to be in chapter 2. Okay? Verses 11, 12, and 13. Listen to this. How many references to life and growth do you see in these verses? Let's read them and see if we can identify the references to life and growth in these verses. Okay? Let me make it big so you can see it at home. Okay? See, winter is past. Okay? So winter is past. So probably we talking about spring or summer. Okay? The rains are over and gone. Okay? So that doesn't give us much growth. That's not talking a whole lot to us about growth and but let's see what we can do. Okay. Or life. But look at verse 12. Flowers appear on the earth. That's about growth. That's about life, right? The season of singing has come. Oh, we're now in the season where we see the budding of trees. We see, plants starting to come up out of the ground. Trees about to starting to have leaves again. We see all of that. That's about life. The cooing of doves. So the birds are out, okay? And it's heard all over the land. The fig tree is now showing its early fruit. The blossoming vines spread their fragrance. So the aroma of the vine is everywhere. Arise, come, my darling, my beautiful one, come with me. Okay, so here's what the Song of Solomon is saying. If you're in a relationship and that relationship has excitement, that relationship has, we talked about friendship, that what happens is you ought to have growth. I mean, you ought not be at the same place today as you were in the day you met, unless the day is the day you met. Okay? That over time, the seasons change. There ought to be signs of life. There ought to be signs of growth. Okay? And when there are, man, when there's growth, there is potential and hope for the relationship. Okay? All right. So we see all these references to life and growth. And what we're saying is that in our relationships, it will be the same way. Your relationship ought to grow. All right? Uh, there ought to be signs of life. Okay? If it is, that could be a problem. Okay? So, what are some examples of individual growth that might be evident in a relationship over time? Over time, how do you know that your relationship is growing? How do you know that your relationship is exhibiting life? Okay? Because now we're in the engagement period and you ought to be growing. You ought to be maturing. So, what are some examples of individual growth that we can look to in a relationship over time? Okay, I'm going to give you a few, but maybe you want to put some on the comment field. Some things that we can look at as examples of individual growth that might be evident in a relationship over time. Okay, so basically, I'm saying if you're in a relationship and you look back over that relationship and you find out either you or your partner is in the same place, then something's wrong. There ought to be growth, just like a child grows from year to year. Child grows from month to month. Okay, your relationship ought to mature. It ought to grow. It ought to be stronger, not weaker over time. Am I making sense? Okay, let me see if I can help you with this. I know some of you struggle with this when we start talking about that. Okay, let me pull this forward. Okay, here we go. One thing is that you ought to have what we call an enhanced self-awareness. You should know yourself better. You should know who you are. Okay? Gloria Graham says that not arguing a lot. Okay? That happens when you become more self-aware. You become more aware of who you are. And so you don't have to argue. You don't have to fuss over everything. Okay? You know that it's gonna pass. You know that, uh, you know, because we are older, because we are mature, because we now know each other better, we don't have to go to the mat on every little thing. Unless we don't grow. And everything becomes a fight. Okay? But when you got an enhanced awareness and you now know yourself better than you did when you first got in the relationship, you know how to temper yourself, you know how to control your temper, you know how to control yourself, you know how to act, you know how to use your tongue, you know how to be circumspect. Okay? Hello? All right? Now, another thing that you ought to have, if you've been in a relationship over time, okay? Let me see if I can close up for you. Okay. What are examples of individual growth that might be evident in a relationship over time? Okay. We talk about self-awareness, enhanced. Okay. You ought to have improved communication skills. As Gloria said earlier, you should not be arguing like cats and dogs, fussing over stupid stuff. Okay. uh, just stuff that, and understand this. I won't be honest with you, okay? This happens with couples. Couples will fuss with each other, okay? So, I mean, somebody bumps into you, you say, I'm sorry. Excuse me, I mean, right? Okay? You ought to have improved communication skills, okay? This is true if you're in a relationship, especially if you're in a relationship that has reached the stage of engagement. Okay, you ought to be better able to communicate your feelings than you were on day one. Am I making sense? Okay. Now, another thing is that you ought to have what we call better improve. Uh, no, let me go back. I'm going to go back one because I skipped one. Okay. Okay. Uh, there we go. Greater emotional regulation. Okay. What we mean by this is that when you're in a relationship, over time, you should have a better control over your emotions. You should be able to manage your feelings. Okay. Stuff that got on your nerve when you first hooked up shouldn't be on getting on your nerve in this season. Because you by now, you should learn how to deal with stuff. Hello? So, one of the signs that people are growing and becoming more mature as they move from single to dating to being engaged is that they have better control over their emotions. They're not flying off the handles. Where were you at? I tried to call you. You're like, come on. I mean, come on. We are adults. We need to act more mature. We need to be able to manage ourselves. So if you can't manage yourself and you've been in this single, you move to dating, and now you move to engagement, but you can't regulate your emotions. You can't manage your feelings. That could be a problem. All right. So here we go. Developing healthy boundaries. Okay. Uh, there's a lot I could say about this, but we find that a lot of time in relationships that people get in relationships and they don't have any personal limits. They just act like they don't have any sense. They just act the fool. Okay. So one of the signs that you are growing, okay, that growth has been evident in a relationship over time is that they are able to develop healthy boundaries. Okay. Can I be honest with you? You know, God made some beautiful works of art. Okay. Both women and men, they are works of beauty. God has fashioned us with his own hands. He breathed into us the breath of life, and we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Okay. But you got to have some boundaries. You can't be walking down the street, guys, with your boo and turning your head for everything that passes by. Just because they works of art and beauty, God didn't put you here to start. You with somebody, you engaged, and you tell me, hold on, let me check this out. Okay? You got to develop some healthy boundaries. You got to keep your eyes at home. You got to learn to be in love with the pride of your youth. What the Bible talks about loving the one you with. Okay? So develop some healthy boundaries and have some personal limits. Don't be out of control like you never had any home training, like you don't know how to act. Because then they're going to be saying, hey, maybe this engagement period isn't for you. Maybe you still out there trying to play the field or find somebody else in addition to this one. Okay? I, as Elizabeth Jackson said, we should be we instead of me. I think that's a beautiful way of saying it. Thank you so much. Okay? So let's go on. Strengthening resilience and adaptability. This is one of the skills you're gonna need if you get to the engagement period. You're gonna need to be resilient. Okay? You're going to need to be like a rubber band that stretches but doesn't break. You're going to have to learn how to adapt to deal with new environments and new situations. Okay? You can't go to pieces just because things didn't work the way you wanted them to work. You can't say every time it gets rough, I'm out of here. You can't do that. You got to have some strength of resilience, and you got to be able to adapt to the environment because the environment will change, but it doesn't mean that you have to change with the environment. You got to be resilient. You got to be able to put up with some stuff, deal with something. Now, I'm not telling you, listen to me. I'm not telling you that during the engagement period, you find out that he or she is abusive, but then you practice resilience by saying, "Oh, they're not gonna hit me, because when they hit me, I'm gonna go off." We're not telling you that. We're telling you that you got to have resilience. You got to even in the engagement period, you got to realize that things may happen. And we talked earlier about how successful relationships can deal with a season of bad, of difficult confessions, of coming to a knowledge of a truth that you were not aware of. Okay? So you got to be strong to do that. Okay? Here we go. Now, over time, a partner who's learned from the past mistakes might approach new challenges with optimism and flexibility. And you may well be able to look back at yourself and whatever relationships you're in, whether they are marriage, whether they're friendship, whatever kind of relationship, you may be able to look back and recognize that you made some mistakes from your past, which opens you up to some new flexibility and optimism about your future. Okay? You don't have to make the same mistake over again. You don't have to do what you did before. Okay? You can walk into this new relationship with optimism and flexibility. Stop being rigid. Stop being saying stuff like, if she doesn't do this, I'm out. If he doesn't do this, it's over. Sometimes you got to be flexible and you got to learn to roll with the punches. You got to learn how sometimes to live for another day. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So here we go. Let's do this. Now, this growth that we're talking about often results in a more constructive response to setbacks, which infuses the relationship with a sense of hope and adaptability that benefits both individuals. Okay? You know you've grown in your relationship when you have a setback and it doesn't send you into oblivion. You don't go cussing, you don't go crazy, you don't go back to the person you used to be, but you say, look, let's see how we can work this out. Okay? Let's see if we can come up with a constructive response to this setback. We can sit up here and blame each other, or we can sit up here and try to come up with a solution that's going to work for the both of us. Okay? And that's maturity. Okay? That's what reason why we talk about the difference between education and being uneducated. Okay? One of the key differences is that when we are educated, when we have knowledge, we learn that there are different ways to attack a problem. Okay? You could have unfaithfulness. You could have somebody run off with the money. You could have any kind of negative consequence that you could think of. But it's up to you to decide how you going to deal with it. Okay? What's going to be your response? Can you come up with a constructive response? Can y'all sit down together? Can you figure it out? Okay? So when couples grow, that growth does not just affect the one person. It affects it affects the whole relationship. So when he grows, she grows. When she grows, he grows, and vice versa. The bad thing about it is when she's growing and he's regressing. The probability is that relationship is not going to survive. The optimum is when he grows, she grows, and they grow together. Okay? And you know that in a relationship when you can look back and say, if that had happened 2 years ago, I would have X. If that had happened 5 years ago, I would have been out. Then you know that you have begun to grow. All right? Okay. Now, also what we talk about is having a shift in perspective on love and relationships. Okay? When you get in this period when you move from single to dating to engagement, okay, you now shift your perspectives about what is true love. What is a real relationship about? It's not just about a one night. It's not just about a hookup. It's just not about having somebody with benefits to be around you. It's about something deeper. Okay? And when you get that growth and you start recognizing that, you're like, okay, this is going to take a greater investment than what I would have been used to giving because the return is so much greater. Okay? Making sense? Okay. Now, as personal growth occurs, one's understanding of what constitutes a healthy, fulfilling relationship begins to evolve. Okay? Let's be honest. Can I be real with y'all? When I first met Brenda, I was madly in love. I am still incurably in love. But I will be honest. What I had when I first met her and what I have today has evolved. It has grown. It has matured. It has been through something. Okay? I didn't know that my depth of feeling could get deeper. When I met her and fell in love with her, I felt like I had reached nirvana. I had reached the greatest pinnacle that I could ever reach. But over time, my love has gotten deeper. Our relationship has gotten stronger. Okay? And as a result, the relationship begins to evolve. And where you thought you could never be, you start looking back and saying, boy, I never thought I could be here. But here I am. Okay? That's what happens when you have personal growth. Your understanding of what's a healthy relationship changes. You know, some people are at a place where they would call a relationship healthy if they weren't cussing each other out. Okay? And some people have relationships that have withstood the test of time where they are more than lovers. They are the best of friends. They're kindred spirits. Okay? Incurably in love. You got that right, Miss Kimberly. All right. All right. So let's go. Now, we raised the question before, how do you know you're with the right person? Okay? They produce growth in you over time. Okay? We keep talking about this continuum, this time-space thing. Okay? You ought to be able to look back when you first met that person and look to where you are today, and you should be able to say, I am better than I was then. Okay? Because if you're not better, there's something wrong. If you're not better, something is lacking. Okay? I didn't say perfect, but you ought to be better. Okay? Different areas of your life begin to blossom and ripen because of your relationship with that person. You feel like your life begins to look more and more like Christ. You begin to favor Jesus. You start even acting more like Christ. It's not that you got a Bible in your hand 24/7, but when our relationships are strong, when our relationships uh, uh, you know, are built on firm foundations, we start talking to each other and treating each other like we are part of the body of Christ. We start singing, I need you, you need me. We're part of a family. We need each other to survive. When you get there, it's a blessed thing. Okay? Pity the person who's been in a relationship for a long time and neither one of them is more like Christ. Right? They probably acting more like the devil. That's a red flag. Okay? All right. So now if your life is already growing because of your partner, imagine what it could look like over a lifetime. Now, on the other hand, if your partner isn't causing you to grow, imagine the spiritual decline that could happen over a lifetime. I want to help you with this. Most people do not get in the engagement phase to walk down the aisle with somebody. They can look back in 30, 40, 50 years and say, over that period of time, I've grown further away from Christ. But it happens because we didn't take time in this period before you walk down the aisle to gauge and start thinking long term. Where am I going to be in 20 years? Where am I going to be in 30 years? Am I going to be in 5 years? Where am I going to be if God lets me live 50 years? Is this person going to help me to get closer to Christ? Or am I going to slide further away? And some people know already when they meet that person, yeah, I'm going to get with them, but they don't love Jesus. They're not coming to church. They don't have the heart for the things of God. Matter of fact, I got to be careful around him or her when I mention Jesus. So, what do you think it's going to look like over the course of your life if when you started they didn't love Jesus? You just going to keep praying that they come to Jesus? Well, they need to have that come to Jesus moment before you say, I do. And you need to make sure, as much as you possibly can, that it was a genuine encounter with Christ and not just an encounter so he or she could say, see, I told you I love Jesus. Because you got to live with that person for the rest of your life. They're either going to draw you closer to Jesus or they're going to drive you further away from him. I'm just trying to tell you. Okay? And if we had had this kind of conversation with our elders before, some of us may not have gone down that aisle. We may have decided in the engagement period, maybe I better let her grow up. Maybe I better wait for him to show signs of maturity. Maybe I better wait for them to get their life right with Christ before. Just trying to say it, okay? So, vulnerability. This is one of the big issues in relationships. This, what we mean is the Song of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 14. Check this out. Ah, my dove, in the clefts of the rocks, in the hiding places on the mountainside, show me your face. Let me hear your voice, but your voice is sweet and your face is lovely. Okay, that's what she's saying. Okay, that's what they're saying. Okay, let me see if I can pull this up here. Okay, all right, now, let me show you this. Okay, in this verse, the man expresses a desire to be with the one he loves. Okay, doves have the ability to make their nest in out of the way places that the casual observer can't see. These words are an invitation to the vulnerability and openness. Okay, that's what he wants. He wants openness and he wants vulnerability. Okay, and that's hard in a relationship. Okay, so here's the question. All right, have you ever allowed yourself to be vulnerable with someone and gotten burned? Have you ever uncovered a part of you, shared something in confidence, was real honest and raw with somebody, and they took advantage of that? They burned you. They ran and told somebody else how you felt. I mean, have you ever allowed yourself to be vulnerable, to put your guard down, to say, I trust you implicitly, and then had somebody walk over, trample on your trust? Has that ever happened? Have you ever been vulnerable? Have you ever been out there exposed and gotten burned? All right. I got one honest soul in the house. Elizabeth Jackson says yes. I mean, if we were honest, a whole lot of us up in here would be saying, yeah, I know what you're talking about, Rev. That's happened to me. Okay. So here we are in the text. Okay. Ross, yes. Okay. So if you're gonna have a relationship and you want that relationship to thrive, you gotta, okay. Sharon said yes when it came to lending money. Okay, you were vulnerable and you got burned. Brenda Perry says yes. Okay, so let me share this with you. If you're gonna have a relationship, vulnerability lays the groundwork for trust. If you can't be open and unashamed as Adam and Eve were in Genesis chapter 2, verse 23 to 25, both the man and the woman were naked and not ashamed. That's vulnerability. When people can see your warts and people can see all of the stuff that you have and they decide to be with you, that's vulnerability. And some relationships don't work because we can't trust our partner. If I tell you this, will you guard my secret? Will you be careful and not put my business on blast? So vulnerability lays the groundwork for trust. Because if I can't be open with you, I can't trust you. So in that engagement period, we need to be developing the groundwork, which is, and sometimes you just got to ask somebody, can I tell you something? And you know, let's be honest, you know when you tell somebody something that's dear to your heart, you know who you told, and you know when you told it. So when it comes back to you, you know exactly who put it out. And if you can't have vulnerability, you can't have trust because they work together. You see that? Okay. One way we expose the hidden places in our heart is through confession. And we talked about that earlier. We come full circle. That we need to confess. We need to come to meeting and say, look, There's some things you need to know. Okay? Vulnerability, instead of looking at it as a negative, it's a gift. But understand this about vulnerability. Some of y'all know this, okay? You only want to be vulnerable in the strongest relationships you have. Because everybody can't handle your truth. Everybody can't handle your secrets. Everybody shouldn't be privy to all that you know. Hello? So, sometimes we may need to have a trusted friend or a counselor or someone to come in and to help us figure out what information and how much detail we should share. And women, I want to applaud y'all because y'all are good at this. You can get with your girlfriends, you can call up somebody, and they'll tell you, look, it's too soon to be telling him everything. You need to know what is appropriate. What should you tell and what should you keep to yourself? Now, if you just starting the relationship, right? You don't need to go over every past sin you had in your life. And the person say, well, I want to know everything. I want to know. Well, we weren't even together. You know? So you got to be careful who you're going to be vulnerable with. Because some people like to take your vulnerability and use it and abuse it. And basically take it and, just make you weaker because you were trying to share your heart. Some people step on your heart. See that? Don't let don't let just anyone into the depths of your heart. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Because once you do, you can't take back what you've let out. If you share all of your secrets with somebody and you just in the engagement phase, you better be sure you're going to get to the altar. Sometimes after you done got to the altar and been through consummation and all that stuff, you better be certain that this is the right woman, the right man, because once you share that, your heart, you can't take that back. They have that information forever. Now, I'm not suggesting that you keep secrets. What I am suggesting is that you get hooked up with a person where you don't need to have secrets. So if you're with somebody and you got secrets, we need to have an offline conversation. Because vulnerability is serious. Whoever you are vulnerable with, that person has an element of control over you. But when you're mutually vulnerable and both of you are sharing, and you're both saying, we're both open, we're both naked, and we're not ashamed. It's bad when one of you is naked and the other is fully clothed. Did y'all get that? Okay. So last thing we're going to talk about in this episode is trust. Okay? Trust. Big word. Here it is. Okay? By trust, when vulnerability is received and it's reciprocated, meaning that the person gives it back to you. So watch out being in a relationship where somebody wants to sit on the side of the bed and have you tell them all of your problems, tell them all of your sins, and then you say, well, what about you? Oh, I don't have nothing. I mean, you must have something. Nah, I ain't got nothing. Okay? Vulnerability needs to be reciprocated. When they share with you, you share with them. Okay? And when you do, you both get in a place where you can deepen your trust. Now, I know my secret's not going anywhere. I know they know my warts. They know my best side of me, and they know the worst side of me. I know them about that about them. Okay? And so now we got deep trust because we know, hey, there's nothing between us. Am I making sense? Okay? So, uh, so Elizabeth says, bring your past up to you every chance they get. Lord have mercy. Y'all know people like that, right? So we need people who are going to be mutually vulnerable because all of us got a past. Some of us just ain't tell nobody about ours, but we got one. All right? What makes you more or less willing to trust someone else? What makes you more or less willing to trust someone else? That's the question. I want you to just think about that a moment because we're talking about trust. Okay? So, what makes you more or less willing? Why are you willing to trust some people and not other people? That's the question. What makes you willing to trust some folk and not others? Okay? Because we're talking about the big one, trust. Okay? So, a negative experience that you can't seem to let go of. Okay? If they show me some form of it, okay? So, when a person shows you trust, you may feel more inclined to, show them trust. Okay, and as Gloria says, well said, knowing the person's track record. So you certainly don't want to get out or start telling your secrets to somebody who's known to go on Facebook or TikTok or Instagram or social media and say, how many likes can I get because Perry has this problem? All right. And you mortified because they took your vulnerability and made it public. So when you around people like that, you gotta, pray God help them to mature, or we gotta do something with this stage we're in called engagement. Okay. Let me see. Trust creates a condition in which love and respect grow and thrive. Yet, in any relationship, there are impediments that have the potential to stall growth. And we got to watch out for that because we don't want our growth to get stalled. So I just want to go to this final passage, the Song of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 15. Can we go there real quick? Okay. Here it is. Catch for us the foxes, the little foxes that ruin the vineyards. Our vineyards that are in bloom. Okay, so here's what he said. There are some things, some vulnerabilities that we run into. And here Solomon talked about it. The little foxes, okay, that destroy the vine. Okay? Sometimes, we looking out for the big line, but sometimes it's the little stuff. Okay? They come at the vineyard when the vineyard is trying to bloom and you got all this little stuff in the way. If you're going to have trust, you got to deal and catch the foxes that ruin the vineyard. Okay? That's what he's telling us. Okay? So, as we get ready to go, I want you to think about this. What are some vulnerabilities for a young couple on the verge of marriage? Okay? What are some vulnerabilities for a young couple on the verge of marriage? Okay? So those of you who've been there, when you hear young folk talking about they want to get married, some of you ought to go in and say, look, I'm not trying to be nosy. I'm just trying to help you, because if you don't prepare for it, there are some foxes that will destroy your vine. Okay? Now, what are some people you know who are great at helping relationships to flourish? Okay? I always champion one of my biggest heroes in this area is my wife. She just has a tremendous knack of putting the right people together. And they come to her, she advises them, she'll make a fanfare about it. She does what she can to help people have relationships that flourish. Okay? Now, some vulnerabilities we talked about that young couples may face. Sharon said this, potential in-laws being in their business, so-called friends in their business as well. And you got to tell people, look, because you may see from a different vantage point that they do. So you need to share that. That could be a potential problem. Okay, so now we're going to ask if you have a question, a comment you want to drop in the comment field. We'll be glad to have it. I want to just share a couple things that are about to happen. On Saturday at 9 a.m., the men are going to have breakfast. The suggested cost is $10. If you send us a young man, a boy, a man, we're not going to turn them away for $10. We want them to come. We're going to break bread, and we also going to break the word. So if you want them to be better, have them come around iron, because iron sharpens iron. Okay? Palm Sunday is coming this Sunday. It's Palm Sunday. Okay? So also on May 3rd, you can put that put a ring around your calendar. That's a Saturday. We're going to have a church cleanup day, and we invite you to come on out as we help to beautify the house. Okay? Women's Day Choir, and we are so grateful that y'all could be out. They have a rehearsal next Wednesday, and then the Saturday directly before Women's Day. So if you like to sing, you may have never been on a choir before, we invite you to join the Women's Day Choir. The songs are right there. You can download them, listen to them, and guess what? A star may well be born. So, okay. So, Tamika, I won't be preaching tomorrow. The Good Friday service is next Friday. Okay? Good Friday is next Friday. So we'll find out if we can get the van to go to Matawan, New Jersey, 5 Orchard Street, Second Baptist Church. Okay? Easter is on the way. Breakfast on Easter, and Easter 6 a.m. sunrise service, 7:30 breakfast, and then we'll be back for worship at 11 a.m. All right, so any prayer requests? We're going to get ready to pray out, and so I want to say again, thank you for being with us. If you want to join the New Hope Missionary Baptist Church, you need a church home, hey, I would love to have you as a part of our body. And it's simple as scanning the QR code, following the prompts, putting your name in. Somebody call you from the church. We'll be glad to take you in. I like to say I think it's a great place to be nurtured and grow. You can ask any of our folk who are on regularly. We are trying to be one of these churches that God's looking for in these last and evil days. Don't forget, we're in the middle of a pledge drive, and boy, God is up to something big. And we thank you for making this vow, this promise to give what you can to help us to make sure that this house of God remains a vibrant place for ministry. Okay? Oh, there we go. Friday, April 18th, the 7 last words. And if you're coming, you get there early because I'm the first word. I don't know how long I'm going to be, but I'm going to be the first one. Okay. I think that's it. Oh, my. Fourth Sunday in this month is Women's Day. We have the Pastor Reverend Dr. Danielle Brown from Shiloh Baptist Church in Plainfield. I mean, you better bring your sneakers, your shouting shoes, all of that. She is one of God's great ambassadors, and we are grateful that she has agreed to come and share with us on Women's Day. All right. Let's go to God in prayer. Lord, we want to say thank you for this time that you've given us that we can look into your word. Lord, I know that when we start talking about relationships, that, some of us feel like it's not about us. I'm past that. I don't need that. But God, you created all of us to be in community. You made us in your image and your likeness, just as the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit have divine communion. You expect us to have communion with our brothers and sisters. So we thank you that we can learn about how to be in community, to have relationships that thrive and grow. Bless us now. We pray, God, for those who are sick. Pray for those who are uh, bereaved. I pray for my friend's family, the family of David Ford, that you would be with them on tomorrow as we go to lay him to rest. Be with them. Give them your strength. Be with his wife, Sheree, his sons, his daughter. I pray for his grandchildren that you would just encourage them. God, I know you're able to do everything but fail, but you keep us in this difficult season. Look on our leaders, look on our world condition. God, kings, presidents, governments come and go. You remain. Bless us and keep us as our prayer. We ask all of this in the might of our Christ. Amen. Well, again, my brothers and sisters, we want to say thank you so much for tuning into our channel and hanging out with us as we looked at an episode of Single, Dating, Engaged, and Being Married. God bless you. Have a smile upon you. Therefore, my beloved brothers and sisters, be steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, which, as you know,